I don't know how much attention you guys pay to Black Friday, Cyber Monday, and all of the sales going on throughout all of these things. I know Seth tries to give away his newsletter. He pays you to take it. And of course, we're all in this capitalistic society. It's always good, to grab a deal where you can. But I have an email open here that I think for me kind of crossed the Rubicon. I think this is one more deal than I need. You know why I think I have one more deal than I need? I got an email. 50% off Black Friday, limited time only, from Pizza Hut Rewards. Now Seth's face is thinking that I should have just sent him this promo code. I should have just connected the dots there. I guess that's fine. I've gotten a lot of emails over these couple days and this weekend and everything. And again, lots of them is being helpful in my Christmas planning. I didn't know Pizza Hut Rewards was going to get in on the offers.
Look, if you hate stuffed crust pizza and delicious breadsticks with marinara sauce, I'll take it all day. Honestly, I think someone in our immediate vicinity should take advantage of the opportunities placed in front of them.
I was going to say, look, if you wanted something that's 50% off, just look at the Chiefs' playoff odds. We're all coping with this in different ways. None of us are having a good time. Be better when we do it all together. Welcome to Only Weird Games. I'm Joshua Brisco with Seth Keysor and Nate Taylor from the airport, because this is a man that is burning not just the midnight oil, the holiday oil, to cover these games, to tell us what happened in them, and to make his way back home. Seth, I'm going to get your vibe check, because I think I'm going to give Nate the talking stick for long enough to tell us about the locker room vibes after that. So how are you feeling right now, Seth, before Nate almost certainly makes us feel even worse?
The name of the article that I wrote on the Chief in the North newsletter is probably the best way to just, get us there. Almost. The 2025 Chiefs. I can't think of a loss that better encapsulated the frustrations, the false hopes, the reasons behind various things of the 2025 season better than that loss. It really had a little bit of everything. It had hubris. It had well, actually, one thing, it didn't have any catastrophic special teams failures. So that's a little bit weird, right?
I said that on everything else. I said, you know what? That was probably the best special teams performance of the year.
Yeah. It had, we'll just go in. It had big plays missed, and not just big plays missed, but big plays missed by your stars. That Rashee Rice drop. That's... Xavier Worthy had one too, where and I believe they scored on that drive, so I don't think that's as big a deal, but it still matters in terms of speed and amount of time left in the game and all that stuff. If you drop it on a free play, and I understand the defender got his hand in there, but man, you got to be able to make some form of contested catch at a certain point, even if that's not really your gig. But so it had big plays missed even by your stars. It had some incredibly bad luck with the ball not being round. It just, the way the ball happened to bounce, the angle Drew Tranquil had taken after McDuffie on maybe one of the worst 2 games of his pro career. He makes an incredible play on Pickens at the exact right moment. And I think with the way everyone was positioned there and the way everyone was running, I think that's a coin flip fumble return that Drew Tranquil recovers half the time. And then the Chiefs are only down by a single score. And this time, though, the ball happened to bounce just a little away from Pickens. To his credit, got his arm around Tranquil and helped hold him down for a split second while another Cowboy came in. That's just bad luck. The way the ball bounced up, Bolton and the way the ball bounced up in terms of missing some picks. Mike Edwards, if he fields that pick cleanly, the play before, if he fields that relatively cleanly, it's just Dak Prescott between him and the end zone, 90 yards away. if he even fields it. And he made a great play on the ball. That the Chiefs are only down by a score and then they tie it up rather than the way it actually went down, right? So you have just some bad luck, injury bad luck. The difference in what the Chiefs offense looked like before Josh Simmons had to exit the game, and based on everything I'm seeing, he's not going to be back anytime soon. And after Josh Simmons exited the game, and now does that mean Josh Simmons by himself is that important? Normally, probably not. But when you're also out Jawan Taylor, which means it's not Moore coming in. Because if Moore had come in on the left side, that's a little bit different. But he was already in on the right side because Taylor had gotten hurt. You're also out Trey Smith, and Mike Caliendo was getting absolutely baptized. And we've talked about this before. You can have one position that's really struggling, and you can kind of compensate for it. Two is tougher, and well, two can almost be fatal if they're really struggling in spots. So, I mean, the injury bad luck there. There were also several plays where Brian Cook is a difference maker. Chris Jones tried to make a play. He swims into the B gap, just barely misses the runner. Nick Bolton, in the meantime, who should be filling that gap, just won over because where he attacked the line, Drew Tranquil could have protected that gap. But Bolton gets buried by the fullback. It happens. Jones trying to make a play, maybe when he shouldn't have. It happens too. And then Jaden Hicks just gets sunned in the open field in a way that I don't think Brian Cook does because he's just a little bit quicker. Would have been in better position. Some of it's just bad luck with injuries. Some of it's, those things, missing Brian Cook shouldn't be by itself the deal breaker, but in a close game, every little bit matters. And the nature of the players who are out, that matters. So it really, the bad luck, the injury stuff, the lack of making big plays even by your stars. And then, like I said, hubris. It had a little bit of everything. You got guys that are struggling on the boundary outside, and you got a guy that's struggling in the slot, and you still refuse to put. Noel Williams has had his struggles. He's had blown coverages. He's not like the shutdown corner that people have quite made him out to be because he's played well as a rookie. But you know what he can do? Play man coverage on the boundary. And against a big physical receiver, he might be better off than McDuffie. You know who's better off in the slot than Shamari Connor? Trent McDuffie. It just, some of the same things, they start off the game running well under center. Then they just move completely away from it. It's 3rd and 3. And instead of just lining up under center where you've been moving guys all day, no. Because even if it's 3rd and 3 and you know you're going to go for it, because, why wouldn't you go for it? You're on your opponent's 44-yard line. It'd be insane to not go for it. So you're obviously going to go for it, right? So you run the ball. Even if you only get 1.5 yards, you're still probably getting there on 4th down. But instead, no, we're going to dial up a pass look out of shotgun and then punt it from the 44-yard line, the opponent's 44-yard line, which the Cowboys then made up for in 4 plays. It's just the hubris of we're going to do the same stuff that we've been doing, and if we just execute it a little better, it's going to be better. So that was a lot of me monologuing, but this game had something of everything that has made the 2025 season so frustrating, including flashes of greatness. Because dang it if I didn't think they were going to pull it off there at the end. Like after that incredible play to Worthy, and then that just dart to Hollywood Brown and that incredible catch in the back of the end zone. And then that incredible catch by Rashee Rice. I really thought they were going to pull it off, and I was just shocked when they didn't get the stop. And so it just had a little bit of everything, including penalties. And I don't want to talk too much about penalties because losers say they lost because of penalties. The Chiefs didn't lose because of penalties. They still should have won that game. Some frustrating penalties. And that's been part of the 2025 season. Most of the 2025 season is because the Chiefs are committing stupid penalties. In this particular case, it happened to be a little bit different. But if you leave it to the refs, you get what you paid for. That's you get what you get when you put it in the hands of officials, and that's what happens. So it really did have a little something of everything that's made the 2025 season so frustrating. And the vibes are very low at the Keysor household. The 2025 season, all I could just say, man, they almost had it. Man, that's been the case in every single loss this year. It's making me choked up.
Other than that, Mr. Taylor, how was the play?
All right. Take a deep breath, ladies and gentlemen. It is my duty, not necessarily my honor, but it is my duty for you to take a good, long, hard look at them. Take a deep breath and look at them. Look them in their eye. Salute them if you want to. Guys, in the first time in this podcast history, and yes, that includes times ours, the first iteration of this trio, I can, with all due respect to the football team that you root for, that does have Patrick Mahomes, it is my duty to tell you that the season's over. There's no Calvary. They are injured. They have not shown when necessary that they can win 5 straight games, even though their quarterback said so after the game. And so let's go around the locker room, right? I've done this before. I'll do this again. They're basically announcing the Chiefs season has ended as well here. In one corner of the locker room is Patrick Mahomes, who looks like a man who understands the dire situation he's in. And for the first time, he might actually know the day that real football starts, there's not much more he can do other than play perfectly. On another corner of the locker room is Chris Jones, who's understandably at the age of 31, who just came off his best game of the season, you could argue, is mentally, physically, emotionally drained. And that was reflective in his post-game comments. I'm sure you heard it, Josh. He didn't have anything left to say. There's nothing left for him to say. Like, George Karlaftis came up to him. Charles Omenihu came up to him. Mike Dana came up to him. And Chris did not have anything left. In the third corner of the locker room is Rashee Rice, who, as Seth mentioned, did have a critical drop in the second half that stalled out a drive. But he also had 2 touchdowns. And in his return to Dallas, was part of the solution more so than he was the problem.
Oh, we lost you there, Nate. Nate went mute and then unmute and then maybe back. Hold on, hit it again.
Okay.
No, we're pulling from the wrong audio feed now, so I think we lost your handheld there. Listen, again, I think as Seth alluded to earlier, it's only right that we have a couple self-inflicted wounds of our own to sort out.
It's terrible.
There you are.
Thank you. So Rashee Rice sees reporters come up to him. You know the crew. It's myself. It's Pete Sweeney. It's Jesse Newell. It's Blair Kirkhoff. It's Neil Jones. Hey, man. This is your first game in your hometown as a professional. You did have 2 touchdowns, which a Chiefs staffer told him. But he was so emotionally distraught that he blew off said Chiefs staffer and did not want to talk to us and walked away from us. And when I say emotionally distraught, like, didn't have it in himself to do it. I don't want to talk after this. I can't talk. I'm not. Either I'm going to say something I want to say, or, who knows if he was going to say something about the referees. Again, I don't know, because we did not talk to him. That's how emotionally distraught he was. And then lastly, and this one hurts the most, because I made eye contact with this player, and I saw the pain in his eyes. And it's just one of those images I'll never forget for this season. Guys, that player was Brian Cook. And he did not take off a single piece of equipment on his uniform. He was the only player that was still in uniform. Pads, socks, shoulder pad, jersey. The only thing that he did not have was his helmet. And he looked like he went through his own emotions. Now, I don't know if he teared up and the tears had dried at that point. Again, I'm sort of speculating at this point, but this man was, I mean, it's just something I'll never forget. And like, what do you say to a guy who, the moment he goes out of the game for the first time this season, in a contract year, I mind you, the entire secondary breaks down on numerous occasions. Most notably, Brian Cook makes that tackle because he made that tackle 4 days ago against an even better running back in Jonathan Taylor. I know on the post-game show, maybe Tucker said this, maybe it was Kent. I know they said that, like, they're cooked, and I'm giving you physical, hard evidence. And that doesn't even include the most heartbreaking scene in the locker room, which was Josh Simmons leaving the locker room with his wrist in a cast, his arm in a sling, and his season virtually over. They need to put him on IR yesterday. He does not need to go get a second opinion. He needs to get that procedure done to heal his wrist, and he needs the entire offseason to let that thing heal up and strengthen. There's no need to rush this man. 3 games later, it's over, guys. Like, their season died on Thanksgiving Day in Dallas when real football is supposed to begin. And that locker room was the most silent, depressing, emotionally rough it's been all season. And more people talked after they got their butts kicked in the Super Bowl than after losing to the Cowboys, falling to 6-6, and falling further behind the playoff race than when the day began.
We've done good enough now that I feel like we could have kept the curtain up here, but I will go ahead and just acknowledge now that we are recording this episode today, just in case anything does happen in terms of the second opinions or the timeline of any injury things. So, in case we do end up with any more info on that front, let's go ahead and get what you do know there, Nate. Again, on the Josh Simmons front, just since we're here. Brian Cook, Juwan Taylor, Josh Simmons all leave this game. It obviously compounds a lot of the issues already. Yep. But as we're recording this now, you know how we used to do podcasts? We would record this and go out. Yeah. What is the latest that you know as we stand currently?
So, like I said, my recommendation would be to sit Josh Simmons, put him on the shelf. The season's over. He had a great rookie season, by the way. Nothing more you can do. It's football. It happens. Yes, people have said this. We should acknowledge this too. This is friendly fire. I know Mitchell Schwartz put it out there on Twitter. It's a chip that Kareem Hunt's putting his best effort out there. Whether his landmark is off or Josh Simmons maybe oversteps his his pass set, because maybe he does know it's a chip, maybe he doesn't know it's a chip, who knows? But it's basically not the defender that leads to his fractured wrist. It's Kareem Hunt trying to give a hard effort chip before he releases out into the flat. When it comes to Juwan Taylor, he had a contraption on his left arm because it's as Andy Reid called it, a strained tricep.
Yeah.
Even though the Chiefs during the game said it was an elbow. So basically it's two things. And he had a contraption on his arm. It's not a cast, but it's like, well, these are supposed to like help reduce swelling would be my estimation at this point. And so, yes, the Chiefs get 10 days before they play the Houston Texans. If Juwan Taylor's out there, he will be physically compromised to some degree. I can't imagine he's just going to feel better when they play the Houston Texans. When it comes to Brian Cook, it's a pretty high ankle sprain, is my understanding. So that
same ankle, right?
No, different ankle. Different ankle from the left ankle. Yeah, that happened in Green Bay. And I remember how upset and emotional Justin Reed was that night when he had to realize they had to move forward without Brian Cook. Because I think what we've noticed in this dynasty post Tyrann Mathieu is their defense has largely held up because Nick Bolton never gets hurt and because Justin Reed and Brian Cook were more valuable than maybe most fans realized. And so with the high ankle sprain, definitely a question mark against the Texans. I mean, no guarantee that you're going to get Noah Gray because of the concussion protocols and how he's doing with his symptoms. No guarantee that you're going to get Trey Smith back in time against the Texans. I know he'll try, but there's no guarantee to that. Their quarterback did miracles, guys. Miracles. Let me remind you that the team that you root for that has Patrick Mahomes did miracles in the second half, leading to almost improbable touchdown drives with Jalen Morris, his right tackle, and Wanye Morris as his left tackle. They scored 2 touchdown passes.
And Mike Caliendo was his right guard.
Correct.
Against Quinnen Williams.
Correct. And understand, too, that, like, you're in disadvantaged position based on the scoreboard. I can't remember who said this. Maybe it was Matt Derrick and Nick Jacobs from 41 is the Mic. They did not run the ball the entire fourth quarter. He did miracles, guys. He did the closest thing to a football miracle. And to Seth's point, you still couldn't give him the ball with a chance to tie, to take it into overtime, or a chance to win. And now you're asking this man to do that for 4 quarters, potentially, against one of the best defenses that includes 2 terrifying pass rushers in the Houston Texans. You can have hope, and that's fine. But reality also exists too, and they're 6-6. They're a beat-up team. They're an emotionally exhausted team. They really tried their best to get up for a 2-game stretch in a 5-day period, and they fell short. And now they're more hurt than they were before kickoff in Dallas. And now you're going to ask Patrick Mahomes to be an alien? Xavier Worthy, banged up, as we know. It's just Isaiah Pacheco had 3 carries. 3. Don't know why. The coaching staff forgot about him in a sense. But the season is probably over.
Your description of the locker room sounds like how you've described postseason loss locker rooms. I mean,
correct.
Very much from the same thing. Seth, what you seem like you, I don't know. Fix it, Seth. Make me feel better.
Fix it.
The problem is with how they're built. Houston's tough, man. Like they've really relied on Simmons. You could see the bump in the offense when he came back in terms of a down by down basis. The good news is basically anything I could say about good news would be related to next year. Like that's where we're at. I just have no, at this point, faith in
God. Wow, this is hitting you hard.
I have no faith in them to do the things that they could do.
Thank you for unmuting to laugh, Nate. I was sorry, Seth. That was the only chance at levity we had for 24 straight minutes, and I just took it.
No faith in God, no faith in love. It's all gone. I just don't see. I don't see a path forward this year that looks like a deep playoff run. And maybe, if Trey Smith comes back and Jawan Taylor's healthy, because Jalen Moore can play left tackle and be good and good enough, and they can still have a good offensive line that way. But I don't see it with the current iteration of the offense. And if they were going to change the offense, they would have by now. Like we've gone we've gone through the Bills, we've gone through the Broncos, we've gone through the Colts, and then
through the bye week between the Bills and Broncos.
Yep. And I remember, I don't know if you guys remember what I had said, that this against Dallas on a short week was kind of the test for me. It's like, okay, you changed things up against the Colts. Ran a lot more from under center. Only ran like 1 or 2 play actions from under center. But okay, unfold stuff based on that. And they had one play on 4th down that was a nifty play that they designed based around, kind of unfolding something from play action under center. That worked, interestingly enough. Much like running the ball from under centers largely worked. And look, the Cowboys, since Quinnen Williams got there, have had a good run defense. So I'm not saying that it just would have been automatic, because Hunt got stuffed a few times. It happens. But they didn't enlarge the role or unfold much new stuff out of it. And by and large, most of what we saw was somewhat similar stuff. It looked like they were going to absolutely cook the Cowboys defense early. And they were. But man, the shift, football can be really simple sometimes.
Once they got out of that 15-play script, Seth, which by the way was the best it had been all season, the moment they got off that 15-play script, boy, did they return to bad habits.
And you also, not too long after that, ended up in this situation where you lose Taylor and you lose Simmons. And Caliendo was just not succeeding against their interior defensive line. And this is something we've talked about before, and it's just really unfortunate after all the resources they poured to the offensive line, because I think this offensive line, healthy, has an argument for one of the best 2 or 3 in the NFL. But man, has it felt like they've barely been healthy and together this season. And that's because they've barely been healthy and together this season. I mean, Simmons had his stuff that he had to go take care of. Fair enough. But, he comes back. Trey Smith gets hurt almost immediately. There's so many ways they can weaponize Simmons, Suamataia, Humphrey, Smith. And they just haven't all been together much. And also, the ways that those guys can be weaponized in the run game hasn't been fully weaponized. So I just don't see... Look, Mahomes can do some crazy stuff, but with the injury news that they have right now and the team looking completely, utterly exhausted, I just don't see... I mean, even Mahomes was basically acknowledging post-game, where he just is like, yeah, we're a team, our ceiling is playing in the Super Bowl. We can beat anyone, but anyone can beat us. And now we just have to win every game and hope. He's basically acknowledging that their season looks like it's spent. I think, Nate, this might have been the way you phrase it. That miracle to Worthy felt like the last bit of magic that they had left in this iteration. And that's where... I think we'll talk about it, but that's where you got to ask yourself if this year really was more of a transition year than we realized, and more of a transition year than the Chiefs realized.
I think there's an interesting twist on that, looking back a season as well. We'll take a timeout, we'll come back, and we'll break that down a little bit.
Missouri, big news. It's almost your turn to get in the game because DraftKings Sportsbook is coming to the Show Me State on December 1st. Soon you'll get fast payouts when you win, a safe and secure app that's easy to use, and promos that keep the action going all season long. No wonder it's America's top-rated sportsbook app. The countdown is on. New customers can sign up right now and score $300 in bonus bets on launch day. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use code KCSN. New Missouri customers sign up today and score $300 in bonus bets once we're live. That's code KCSN. The crown is yours. In partnership with DraftKings Sportsbook. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. 21 plus, physically present in Missouri. Eligibility and restrictions apply, subject to regulatory licensing requirements. Bonus bets are not withdrawable and expire 7 days after issuance. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, see sportsbook.draftkings.com/promos.
My name is Terrell Jolly. A lot of people call me TJ, founder and CEO of Integrity Capital Management. So Integrity Capital Management originally started out as a property management firm, but we slowly transitioned into what is described as an incremental development firm that's focused on situational housing. I know most people say affordable, but we believe in creating housing for people that are actually in need and built to the end user. I believe everyone needs a home because when you have home, you have hope. The reality is that when you're building a business, one thing you don't think about is like what a true banking relationship means. And, I had the honor and privilege of meeting Debbie early on in my career when I was just trying to get going. And as a small business, it's really challenging at times because people don't understand the concept or not believe the longevity because you're just getting started. But Debbie was willing to take a chance on me, be patient with me. I almost look at it like a grassroots initiative. She's seen and believe what I'm about. Anybody that's really true about their business and want to get some things done, I would definitely trust hands down Emprise because Deb's team, along with Aaron and Jackie and all the amazing people that work behind the scenes, even from the treasury side, I would say, hey, give them an opportunity because you won't be disappointed and you will actually be in hands that actually somebody care and that will see you from start to finish.
Something that I was thinking about, I think I mentioned this to Tucker on the show on Friday. I kind of feel like obviously last year was all about the three-peat campaign, so obviously it would have gone very differently and it would have felt different in a lot of ways. But if you could have just flipped the results of last season and this season, it all would have made so much more sense. If you would have told me that last year's Chiefs ended up at 6-6 because they had a total disaster of a left tackle campaign, they lose Hollywood Brown before the season begins for pretty much the whole year. They lose Rashee Rice for the whole year just as soon as the season gets started. Xavier Worthy is a rookie, just can't quite get up to speed. They lose Isaiah Pacheco and Kareem Hunt has to come out of near retirement to stabilize the offense. The defense is a very similar cast of characters. In fact, the Chiefs did spend a second and third round pick on defensive linemen this year. Obviously, Omar out for the year, and Gelati has been kind of a part-time guy. Don't
forget that Isaiah Pacheco has never been the same since his injury against the Cincinnati Bengals.
And if you would have added up all those ingredients last year and they go 6-6, and then this year's team wins a bunch of close games and they just kind of grit through it, and the offensive line is much better on paper and the weapons are much better on paper, this is where like coaching is incredibly hard to like pinpoint from above, which is why we have Seth here to tell us how all the plays are supposed to work. I joke, but barely. But if you would have flipped the paths of these teams in these 2 years, this year, if they get to the Super Bowl with some duct tape and bubble gum and then they get blown out by the Eagles, thinking, you know what, this was like one of the two best teams in football. They eked out these close games and it worked out. And last year was disappointing because of reasons largely outside of your control. That would have settled to me in a way that would have felt at least somewhat logical, right? Last year, they overcame so much of those issues. And this year, they had fewer things to overcome and ended up in a much worse place by the end of it. So, Seth, I do ask you, like, where do you, I assume that you probably agree with that in spirit to some extent, but like, where do you attest for the discordant results of these two seasons and why so many things about the process seemed better or easier this year and the results have been worse?
Timing and luck. They really were. I don't think we realized it in the moment. And hindsight's always 20/20. And so I think a lot about some of my analysis of last year's team. And I think the way we analyzed last year's team was colored by the 2022 and 2023 teams. The way we analyzed the defense was colored by the unbelievably dominant 2023 defense. And so we kind of glossed over the fact that they weren't as good. They were still solid, but not as good and not as consistent, right? And I think the 2024 offense, we were still kind of almost in shock from like the 2023 season. And there was still like that historic playoff run in 2023. They're the Chiefs, right? Like they're the Chiefs. and we watched them take apart good defenses on the way to the Super Bowl. We watched them figure it out situationally. It didn't look great at first against Baltimore or Buffalo or San Francisco. Didn't look good at all in that first half against San Francisco.
Correct.
But they figured it out, and then they were just dominant on offense down the stretch as Mahomes played just an unbelievable game.
Mm-hmm.
So in 2024, because you had these things that you could point to as the reasons why it looked so hard, especially personnel-wise, and they were very easy things to point to, and there's truth to it. It made it easier to maybe gloss over systemic issues because you could point to the specific. And I think I might have, and I'm talking about me now, because one thing that I really hate are people that pretend that they're always right and only talk about their hits. I really thought that it was personnel only. And I could point to reasons why, but I think you can miss the forest for the trees there. I think you can see the specific issues, but get so caught up in the specific issues that you don't really see the systemic issues. And because of that, because there were individual things we could point to, and because the gloss of the 2023 defense is kind of how we viewed the 2024 defense, and the 2024 defense, like, you know, that last game, Buffalo, that the AFC Championship could have probably raised some red flags about, like, man, they needed Mahomes to do some stuff and Andy to do some stuff, We should have seen that slow downtrend, and we kept assuming the offense would keep trending up. And again, we kind of missed the forest, or I kind of missed the forest for the trees there. And now this year, the defense is continuing. It's not a bad defense, and it has its moments. We just got done watching them have a dominant performance against the Colts, but you can't, the systemic stuff, you can't keep hoping that guys are going to become something that they're not. And specifically, the front four. When you can't get pressure. People want to know. You want to know why Charles Omenihu was in coverage on one play? Or you want to know why, CeeDee Lamb is being covered by Chamari Connor down the field from the slot? Now, is there another answer that could have been had to that? Yes, there's. Whatever. But you want to know why? It's because Spags thought he had the slot blitz Trent McDuffie, and because he did have to do that to get anything resembling pressure, the Cowboys are ready for it, so the slot blitz does nothing except leaves Chamari Connor in space all by himself.
Island.
Yeah, against CeeDee Lamb. And it went the way you'd predict. And that's the thing. The stuff that we were all freaking out about last week, which was really good stuff. Spags ran a ton of sim pressures against the Colts. Simulated pressures, you rush 4, but you're rushing weird guys. And then that means you're dropping some defensive linemen into spots because you're not expecting them to actually cover people. And that's one thing when people are like, I hate seeing a defensive lineman coverage. Then you hate it when they get a free rusher with a sim pressure. It giveth and it taketh away. The problem is when that's the only way you can generate pressure outside of Chris Jones doing something freakish. And also, just to go on a rabbit trail there, why do you think Chris Jones is jumping from the A gap to the B gap? Because he knows it's him or no one. I like George Karlaftis. Everyone else on the defensive line, it's replacement level stuff, what we've seen this year. And it's impossible to have a good defense consistently with that.
I do wonder, and maybe we'll learn more when the season is officially over. We know Karlaftis has been playing with a thumb injury.
Right.
How bad is it? Because so much of his game is predicated on strength and bull rushes and tenacity and relentlessness that, like, he can't do that. But that's the worst game he's had really since the season opener. And if the thumb has affected him that much, then yeah, they have no shot at generating any level of pass rush with 4. And Dak Prescott is more experienced than Daniel Jones as to finding the answers when you anticipate a blitz. And I think that's something that I thought Steve Spagnuolo threw out his best stuff early in the game, which is kind of a sign of, boy, this better work because I don't have another play. I don't have another pitch to throw. So, He threw a funky blitz out there, got a turnover, led to 7 points. Great. Then he blitzed for half the game after that. And it doesn't, it leads. I think the one thing that any offense will tell you is, well, if you're blitzing from the slot, if you're blitzing from the middle of the field with linebackers or safeties, man, slant's going to be there all day, boys. Slants are there all day.
You'd think you could actually have your corners play some inside leverage.
And that would be my question. If you know where your weak spot is because of where you are setting up, because you know you have to blitz to get the ball out quicker than you would like, man, you better hit it over the top of my head, because what we can't do is give up 7-yard slants to guys who are extremely good at running slants. 2 of them.
It was also just, everyone probably knows this now, but I mean, it was just apocalyptically bad on 3rd and long, 3rd and 7+. In fact, I can pull the stat back up here in a second, but I mean, it's I think it's a combination of stuff that you included in your story about all of this, Seth, but it's both allowing weaknesses like that to be exploited and allowing those weaknesses to be exploited at the highest leverage, worst possible times.
Yep. It's and that's the thing. At a certain point, you can't account for lacking talent. And the Chiefs have made a number of decisions up front. And here's one thing I would say. I'm only talking about Jones and then Karlaftis. Ashton Gelati might be their 3rd best defensive lineman, and he's a rookie who's had an up and down year. That Ashton Gelati should be like your 4th best edge as a rookie. And he made a couple plays against the Cowboys, but he's just not. And I think I'm tentatively excited about his future because I think he's got a little high athleticism to where I don't think he's going to cap out with what we're seeing from him this year. The way he wins, he needs to add a little more strength, which is pretty normal for a guy his age. But they just, what they need, if Chris Jones doesn't get immediate pressure, and he just doesn't as much as he did 2 years ago, there's just nothing happening. George Karlaftis, the way I've said this, George Karlaftis is a guy you can get by with as your 2nd best pass rusher if your 1st best pass rusher is a superstar. An absolute superstar.
And you have a guy in Tershawn Wharton who is commanding respect against one-on-ones as well.
Right.
And his absence
that hurts.
Appears to be just as large. And I'm not sure how many people have thought about this or said it out loud. Tershawn Wharton's absence and production last year is just as important as Justin Reed no longer being here from a culture, systematic tackling. Hey, maybe if you're the general on the field, if we're blitzing, you will tell Trent McDuffie or you will tell Jalen Watson, give me more inside leverage here, right? Mm-hmm. Because I'm the more experienced safety. I got the whole system inside and out to where I'm a contributor plus because I am an extension of the coach on the field. They don't. I mean, to be fair, they had Mike Edwards, Shamari Connor, and Jaden Hicks as their safeties,
and yet still insisted on running 3 safety sets.
Right.
And this is where the hubris aspect of it comes into play. But no, the defensive line issue, losing Wharton hurts. And this isn't meant as any disrespect to Mike Dana or Charles Omenihu. Mike Pennell, I think, is a guy. Nadi is actually, he's had some ups and downs this year since they brought him back. But I mean, he's made some plays too. I just, for me, it really is something that, and well, it's tough because it's like we're essentially doing a post-mortem on 2 days after
the season is over,
right? But we're gonna have a lot of time to talk about a lot of this stuff. But I just, there's really not a lot of way to compensate for it. You built this team around the idea of Chris Jones maintaining an unbelievable level of play, and then just not supporting him with anyone else who can win quickly. And that's just not insisting on having a certain archetype of defensive end where you're prioritizing ability against the run. That's just problematic. even from an absolute legend at defensive coordinator, because the guys who can, it's like, yeah, sure, it's ideal if you can be great at both. Sure.
Myles Garrett's the best case scenario.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sure.
But those guys just don't, you're not going to find those guys. And honestly, like some of the contracts that they've handed out, it's not like Zach Allen wasn't available for a lot cheaper than he would be now 2 years ago. And that's where it's like, if he was a 34 defensive end. No, he's an oversized edge who can also play inside and it's kind of a defensive tackle. Does that sound familiar? But like, he's got shorter arms than Charles Omenihu.
But we could get Jerry Tillery for nickels on the dollar.
And this is just it. That level of confidence in your system to overcome. And like, there's just certain things. They really liked Omar Norman-Lott, who looked better early on than I thought he was going to be. Could be interesting next year. There's plans there, and injuries have stunk. But that's where, when we're talking about this year's team, and the Cowboys have a great offense with a quarterback who's playing really well, who've got, excellent receivers. But I just don't see answers here in the building, at least consistently, unless suddenly guys start playing better than they've played all year. Like, sure, if the secondary keeps doing exactly what it's doing, which is going to be tough to do if Cook misses time, right? And they decide, hey, let's be done with this Connor in the slot thing, and George Karlaftis plays at his best that he's played all season, and Charles Omenihu plays like he did against Denver, for example, sure, then yeah, it'll probably work out. And the defense will probably play pretty high level. But the problem is, if that's something that hasn't happened through 12 games, you're counting on a lot. And that's where it's just tough to picture. They need 5 straight wins and help. Now, again, if they win 5 straight, they'll probably get in. Like 11 and 6. The problem is there's a pretty deep AFC field this year. And so they'd
have the tiebreaker on the Ravens and Texans in this world, for what that's worth. And they'd be even with the Chargers again.
And that's a big deal. That's a really big deal. But man, boy, have you lost tiebreakers with a bunch of other guys. So maybe you can hope
they're 1-3 in their last 4, and we're talking about what it looks like if they win their next 5. Like, we're really wishing.
Which is to my point. Which I respectfully, we have given a lot of fair criticism to Steve Spagnuolo. But ladies and gentlemen, that pales in comparison to the actual head coach of the football team you root for. And a lot of the issues that you saw that were exploited yesterday is because Andy Reid actively chose to trust his defense more than to trust his offense, the quarterback, who, again, was working miracles and had demonstrated to you on 2 gotta-have-it plays, 4th and goal, touchdown, 4th and 4 from the 44-yard line, or 4th and 5 from the 48, 49-yard line, plus side of the field. He chose his worst unit to put faith in than the better unit to put faith in. And I remember telling you guys this in training camp, preseason, getting ready for Sao Paulo. This year had to be about the offense returning to absolute potency, because you knew there was going to be slippage from the defense. Everybody knew that. The moment you even chose not to have Mike Pennell on your 53-man roster, you were basically acknowledging that, like, well, we just think our offense is going to be so good that we can help mitigate some of our defensive deficiencies, because we are not going to be the same defense we were last year, let alone 2023. So the offense had to be the one to lead the way after the defense had done it the last 2 years. Again, he chose to put his worst of the 2 units on the field than to put the faith in the season in his quarterback hands.
And that's in a year where he's actually been better about going for it on 4th downs. The one from Dallas territory was just, I was so bothered at the time, and you're expecting them 2 weeks in a row to do what they did against the Colts, and on a day where the offense overall was playing better and Mahomes was playing better than they were against the Colts. It really is a lot of this is how we do things. We got to because it's the same quote. And this is, oh man, I'm going to regret this.
No. This is why he is a Hall of Fame coach, because so many players will say he will try to stay as calm and as neutral, and he will never get too high unless they win the Super Bowl, but he will largely never get too low as a way of projecting to his team how to handle adverse situations. But yes, when he says the same thing on an up and down 6-6 year, because that is who he is from a philosophical and leadership standpoint, it does come off as a slap in the face to the public, to the fans, to people who are invested in the team. But I just want people to know, that is what has honestly made him great. He does not overreact to things, even though it would be nice for him as a human to perhaps overreact to things. He's just not going to do it. He's not going to criticize the refs. He's not going to criticize his quarterback. He's not going to criticize the offensive line, even though he did not have a left tackle all of last season worth, having. He's just not going to do it. This is who he is to his core. And so did I go to his news conference yesterday? No. I stayed my behind in the locker room for obvious reasons, because I knew exactly what Andy Reid was going to say, because that is who he is from 1999 all the way to 2025.
Yeah, and how'd that work out for him until Patrick Mahomes dropped into his lap? He was known for being, and oh man, I'm going to regret this, but I'm just going to do it. Here's the deal. Before Patrick Mahomes dropped into Andy Reid's lap, Bill Simmons had a running joke called the Andy Reid face during the playoffs. He was known for being a guy that could consistently have a good team, but couldn't get it done. Then what did we see in 2013, 2014, 2015, 2016, 2017? What did we see? We saw the same stuff. Andy Reid's a great coach, and I've consistently been on here talking about how largely it's execution stuff, but quotes like this. The guys know, they understand we've got to clean up a few things. We've got to do better as coaches. We've got to do better as players. You go back to the drawing board. You don't quit. We were close here. Might as well have just titled it Almost. Sometimes a big reaction isn't an overreaction. Sometimes it's an appropriate reaction. There's a lot of scenarios there where reacting in a big way and a decisive way and a swift way is not an overreaction. It's a reaction to what is occurring. This is going to sound like a weird analogy, but maybe it gets there. It might seem like an insane overreaction to, I don't know, stab my son in the leg with a needle, unless he's having an anaphylactic reaction and it's an EpiPen. That's not an overreaction. Yeah, it's not. It might be a reaction for me to stab my friend Josh Brisco twice a day with some needle. You know when it wouldn't be? If the man's got diabetes and he dies if I don't do it. Sometimes extreme situations call for extreme reactions.
Maybe you need a needle in your back because you got cancer in your kidney.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, man, we're going to slice you open with a giant knife and remove part of one of your organs. You know why? Because there's cancer on it. Sometimes you need an extreme reaction when things are going a certain way, and incremental changes aren't enough. And that's where one of Andy Reid's greatest personal traits as a human being, his steadiness. Everyone I've ever talked to who has worked for Andy Reid. Now, to be fair, I've never talked to LaShawn McCoy. Maybe he'd say something different. But everyone I've ever talked to, worships the ground Andy Reid walks on. And that's because he's kind, he's loyal, he's generous, he's sharp, he's steady. Sometimes being steady can be bad when what is required is a little bit more of a swift reaction. And that's where, when you look at how the offense looks right now, and you look at how it's looked over the last 3 years, they needed something beyond, we're close here. We just got to clean it up, a couple things here and there. They, similar to me, and this is where I can lump myself in on this, because I did the same thing. There were assumptions made about the state of the offense because of the injury stuff. in 2023 and 2024. And they were wrong. And I was wrong. So I'm right there. This isn't me calling for Andy Reid's head, but it is me saying being steady is great until you are in a situation that's more emergent. And then it's like, oh, this person never speeds up nor slows down, but they remain the exact pace. Yeah, there's a freaking velociraptor chasing you. Maybe speed up a little bit.
And let's acknowledge, too, that a large chunk of the AFC has improved, right? The Colts have a stabilizing quarterback, and they stopped antagonizing their best player on their team. The Chargers have a very good coach quarterback combination. They actually invested in their offensive line, and they invested in running back, something the Chiefs haven't done yet.
And they stopped antagonizing their fans.
And hopefully their medical staff. The Denver Broncos are led by another Hall of Fame level coach who has an immense defense. And as long as Bo Nix don't turn the ball over, they'll be in every game. So therefore, they increase their chances of winning and letting their defense lead the way, much like the Chiefs did in the 2023 and much of 2024 season. Mike Vrabel's in the league, guys. He matters. He wasn't in the league last year. Just a fact. Okay. I don't know what's going to happen in the AFC North. The AFC North does not matter. It is non-existent, right? But the Bills still have Josh Allen, and he is more than capable of leading this team to back to the AFC Championship game. Like the AFC as a whole actually saw seismic improvements from last year to this year, and the Chiefs have more deficiencies along the coaching staff, or they're more apparent this year than in previous years, in a way that their own quarterback, who was doing God-level miracles on Thanksgiving Day, cannot overcome. Because the coaching staff, as I said before, has made choices that has ultimately doomed them. And so from a personnel standpoint, if you're like, well, Nate, what about the front office? Their highest pick in this entire era was a 21st pick. And when you're picking late in the draft every year, your coaching staff has to be excellent. And this is the first time where the coaching staff hasn't been excellent. Hey, your owner doesn't do void years. Your owner took a while to spend legitimate money, but now he has spent legitimate money and he needs the coaching staff to do its job. The coaching staff has let the team down in a way that we have not seen in the Mahomes era. So it's just, I tend to think more coaching staff than front office, because you did try with Omar Norman-Lott. He got hurt. You did try to invest in Xavier Worthy. He got hurt. He ain't played as well as he did last year. And some of his decision-making on the field, some of his habits on the field are worrisome. Hey, it's not the front office's fault that Rashee Rice did the most stupid thing in his career on Easter weekend. So there's 6 games that are just where he's just not on the field, right? It's not the front office fault that Patrick Mahomes threw his entire body into Rashee Rice's knee. That's bad luck. It happens. Not the front office's fault. They have not been able to, if you want to say, hey, what is the biggest issue with the front office? They have not been able to find solutions for Chris Jones in the way that they have tried, and mostly found solutions for Patrick Mahomes with the offensive line, with the infusion of talent at the receiver position. The front office has not been willing to invest in the running back position, but have the coaches made it apparent to the front office that they want to invest in the running back position? I would say no. So,
yeah, I don't know if people would have felt any better seeing Breece Hall not carry the ball in the fourth quarter.
And that's a Clark Hunt, Andy Reid, and Brett Veach decision. So there's a trio, guys.
Right. And I think you could sum it up all, and this will be, I think, my last on it, where, again, I was the whole, well, how's that work out for him before Patrick Mahomes? Again, sometimes you have to be willing to say, that familiarity with your system isn't the end all be all. There's got to be something that matters more. Like Mike Dana is an $11 million cap hit next year, which, by the way, is never going to happen. But that was one of their things.
Fulton's 13.
And that
he was inactive again, by the way. So that path.
Yeah, I know.
Well, front office got that one wrong, boys and girls.
It's a 2-year deal versus a 3-year deal, but the money is very similar for Christian Fulton and Justin Reed.
Yeah,
that's not just overreacting to the safeties getting hurt. I want that to be clear, but we talked about that in like week 4, I think. So
that was it's a fascinating thing because I really liked his film in LA. So the whole thing is interesting to me. But I do think what you see time and again, though, is a valuing of familiarity and quote unquote trust over talent. And that's something, or fit over talent. It's like, well, they fit what we do. Well, what if what you do is no longer the best game in town?
Yes.
And that's where, again, we're a year removed from them almost three-peating, but that has led to some blinders because last year, this is what I was going to start with, then I end up, of course, in something that shocked no one, sidetracking myself a million times. I think we underestimated how lucky they got last year. I think if last year happens in a vacuum to some team that hasn't, done what they'd done, I think for people that preach, and we do, that every NFL season is different, I know for me, I gave too much credit from 2028 through 2023 to the 2024 team because that team realistically should have been like 12-5. The Raiders loss and the Raiders game should have been a loss. The Broncos game should have been lost. That's just right off the top. And they had multiple other crazy things happen. And so I think the decline started last year and it just didn't get noticed. Whereas this year's team, I actually do think is a little bit better.
Hey,
but isn't as lucky. And that's the thing. That's how lucky they were last year. You can be a little bit better, but way less lucky. And suddenly it's like, holy crap. I think,
but they were
situationally lucky. They weren't injury lucky. Right. They were injury cursed.
Yep.
Because, and again, they were situationally lucky, you could say, Josh, because they were trying to do something together that was unprecedented, and it was a motivating, driving factor for the course of the year, and it was something that they could always rely on, and it was something that they could use to galvanize themselves. And they don't have a similar thing to reach for this year. They don't have a similar theme to go forth. Now, yes, it's much of the same characters, but they're obviously a year older. You play so much more football than anybody else. And Seth, you asked the question, well, who had a season like that last year? It's called the Minnesota Vikings. They've done it multiple times where it's like, hey, Kirk Cousins led us to the AFC or the NFC divisional round. Whoops. Hey.
Yeah. That's a good comparison.
Did we just luck into Sam Darnold having the best season of his career, even though we just drafted JJ McCarthy? And boy, that was a hell of a crash out last year, kids.
And we're going to sound like haters this offseason. We remind everybody that the Broncos were that team this year. Like,
correct.
And maybe the Colts.
Correct. Yeah. And look, they actively chose to say, you know what? Even though Sam Darnold looks amazing in the KLC system, they still chose to push him out the door for a guy who actively stinks in JJ McCarthy.
Yeah.
And their season, in a similar way, has been tarnished because every year is different. Every year is not the same. And so I love the idea of like the Chiefs have been bucking against NFL trends for half a decade now. And yet the talent was still there, but no one anticipated the coaches being worse than they were the last 3 years. I mean, these are simple things that anybody in row 16, section 435, seat B knows. Like, what I did not anticipate was the coaching staff not keeping its same level of intensity, specificity, the precision in what they were trying to do from a week to week basis. the coaching staff has not fit the players, even though the players are to fit the coaching staff. And Brett Veach has always been clear about, I work for Andy Reid and I work for Steve Spagnuolo, because those are two Hall of Fame level coaches. You guys tell me what you want. I will mostly try to do my best to go seek that out and make it fit your system, your culture, your sort of play style. And the coaching, I think the coaching has been the coaching might be the biggest letdown of the season that is not injury related.
Well, happy Thanksgiving, everybody. That's going to do it for us. As always, you can read Nate's work, and still you can give him the corporate click for the now out history of the Chiefs and Cowboys and their intertwining histories and the relationship of all of that for a little historical look that doesn't hinge quite so much on the game to game. Plus, of course, all of the post-game stuff over on ESPN. Seth's, of course, at mnchiefsfan.substack.com. You can go sign up he'll pay you to sign up now. It's his Black Friday sales going on and whatever. It's $6 for a year.
Yeah, baby.
$12 a year. I can't do that. 50 cents a month. Okay, fine.
You better cash in, folks.
Go take food out of the mouth of Seth's family and his wonderful kids. Nope, they can go hungry. It's okay. It's 50 cents a month. You can do all of that. And then we'll be back on our usual schedule, and we'll return on Tuesday. I think that's it. I'm kind of sad. I was sad when we started, but I think I'm more sad now. So good to see you guys. Nate, you want to get us out of here?
I have it. Ladies and gentlemen, that was my first time in AT&T Stadium, Jerry Jones, Thanksgiving Day. Where's John Madden? Are you ready? Ladies, shut up. Turkey, brisket, ham, chicken wings, steak, bacon on a stick.
Bacon on a stick?
Mac and cheese, yams, greens, green bean casserole, which I didn't have, cranberries, sauce, rolls. I mean, my God. Pecan pie, apple pie, pumpkin pie. It was everything I could hope and dream. It was everything I could hope and dream. I think I want to cover the Cowboys.
My hot take is that Stouffer's stuffing is better than any homemade stuffing ever.
That's a good take, Seth.
You ain't lying.
I don't like what Nate implied about green bean casserole, but I understand.